Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff podcast. My name is David, and there was some pretty big news that happened. That's a rumor, but I think it is true. Um, but first of all, I want to talk about the fact that today was the first day and only day that you could sign up for the Lightspeed lanes in celebration for London, which hopefully I will make it over there along with Colin and Josh. And we successfully got a Sunday time slot for the Lightspeed lane at around 3 o'clock. So unfortunately, we tried for Friday, and Friday was all sold out. I clicked on the link on my phone exactly when it was published. I had it up on my laptop screen here, and I was constantly refreshing. But I also had my phone going too, and I had Colin on the phone as well. And as soon as 11 a.m. Central hit, I hit the button. It took me to the page, and you had the traditional like walking guy going across the screen this way. And it said the wait was going to be about an hour. Then it dropped to 45 minutes. Then it dropped to 32 minutes. Then 20 minutes. Then 5 minutes. And then it said I was entering. And I went in, tried to select Friday. Friday was totally booked, even though you could click on dates or times for Friday. Every time you added to cart, it said you could not select that, even though they were all selectable. So I jumped from Friday to Saturday. Same thing. Friday, Saturday was totally booked. Sunday, the first few time slots were booked. And then I was able to select, I think, 2:30, and I had Colin on the phone, so we coordinated so we could be in line together. So Sunday's my day. My time slot's about 2:30. Hey, what's up, Liam? Just about to go to bed. And Evan is here too. Yeah. Thanks for joining, guys. Yeah, this is hopefully this is more normal occurrence. We're gonna try and do a little bit more of this type of thing. Colin's gonna join me here in a little bit, but yeah, I just wanted to get on here and talk about some of the news stories, some of the bigger news stories that happened today. And then at night, we're going to try and do some Patreon daily stuff as well with James, because James can't make it because he's working. And I just got off of work. So we're trying to find a suitable solution here. So yeah, Evan says, same issue for me. I was lucky enough to get one on Friday, though. Wow, lucky. So yeah, unfortunately, Friday was totally booked. But then people were saying in some of those celebration groups that they added more times, and I was able to go back in after I had my Sunday selected. I was able to select a Saturday date, but I didn't want to hold on to it. I just didn't want to complicate things. Oh, hey, James is watching. Yeah, he says, I wish I could join. So I already told everyone, James, you're on Patreon Daily with me tonight. So you got to join tonight. Liam says, the more the merrier. It's all Star Wars news from what I read on social media. Yeah, it's crazy that we're getting all this news kind of coming out before Celebration, which I think it's kind of typical for other franchises and other types of IP, but for Star Wars, usually we don't get anything truly big, which I'm not sure if the Damon Lindelof stuff is truly big, but for me, it's more of a frustration. And I don't think we've reported on the fact that Stephen Knight has taken over the lead kind of showrunner writer spot for the film that should be announced at Celebration. But I have some friends that told me that he's a pretty good writer due to Peaky Blinders. I haven't seen Peaky Blinders. I know it's kind of out there in the zeitgeist, but it's he's a name that I'm not familiar with, and it's kind of just like one of those. Yeah, I don't know. But a story came out that I want to kind of go over here. Evan says it's 12:30. How long does that panel last? I believe it's an hour and a half long. I believe it runs from 11 to 12:30. So I think if Evan, if your light speed starts at 12:30, I think you have an hour. So it goes to 1:30. So you have that option. And the other thing about Celebration, I think the times are kind of flexible. That's the thing I kind of noticed, because it was funny because when we got lucky, Colin, myself, and Carl, we went to the Celebration live stage. Ewan McGregor walked out, and he basically told the crowd, if you have any type of like reservations for autographs or photo ops, he said, I'm still here for another 30 minutes. And it's like, well, if you didn't meet your date, I guess you can still go in there. So it's kind of funny. So yeah, I basically told Colin, I said, if the light speed kind of conflicts with the scheduling for whatever else we're going to do, we probably can just go ahead and walk in. So yeah, I got confirmation here that James is going to join us tonight for Patreon Daily. And Liam McCallion said Peaky Blinders is good. Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, Cillian Murphy, he's a super underrated, very uncelebrated actor, in my opinion. But maybe after Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, maybe that's going to totally change for him, because he is actually Oppenheimer in that titular film, Oppenheimer, for Christopher Nolan, which has a loaded cast. And I know James is hyped for it. I'm hyped for it. So we will see. But yeah, I'm going to share my screen here and show you what I was talking about. Kind of the big story. And this is from Star Wars Newsnet. And as you can see right there, Star Wars film rumors, 3 films to be announced at Celebration, one of them in an awkward place with more behind-the-scenes drama. So I guess you could probably guess which films we're talking about here. The one film that people were thinking was maybe off the table was Sean Levy's film, but that's part of the story, that film is going to be talked about. It's going to be officially announced, which no one has any idea what it's going to be about. I mean, we really don't know what Taika's film is really going to be about. We're all kind of assuming it's going to be like something quirky, something unrelated to anything that we've seen before, total side of the Star Wars saga, or the Skywalker saga, rather. But I'll go over this here to get everyone in a better headspace on what this is all about. So it says more rumors and small bits of information from the Jeff Snyder camp, as the above the line reporter shared some of what he's heard in the latest episode of the Hot Mic with Jeff and John. So Jeff is Jeff Snyder, and I actually watched some of their I listened to some of their podcasts today. And Jeff Snyder, he's pretty well connected. I trust him. He's a pretty reliable source. He's been doing it for probably decades now. And John is John Roca from the John Roca podcast, and he was a part of the Collider crew before it kind of melted away. So the article continues with, starting with, we guess, more positive spin. Snyder's hearing that 3 new films will be announced at Star Wars Celebration, which is one more than we kind of previously guesstimated. The Taika film and the no longer led Damon Lindelof project. In just a couple weeks, while he didn't provide any more specifics, the 3 likely candidates are the new films from directors Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, which apparently is a director that I think once we move further down in the story, it seems like Kathleen Kennedy kind of handpicked Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy herself without Damon Lindelof's consent, it feels like. And I think Damon Lindelof wanted his own choice. But I'll continue reading here. To as the Damon Lindelof movie, which just enlisted Peaky Blinders Stephen Knight, Sean Levy, of which we know next to nothing, and Taika Waititi, which is in the scripting phase, with Christy Wilson Carnes co-writing. Also, David Gordon Green, the last Halloween trilogy, which I really wasn't a fan of. Were you a fan of it, Colin?
Of the what trilogy?
The last Halloween trilogy with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. I thought the way the movie ended was kind of weak. I feel like it could have been better. But
yeah,
that person's going to take over a Star Wars movie.
Well,
Interesting.
That's the rumor. I mean,
Okay.
I wasn't a huge fan of that trilogy. I think the first movie was okay. It was solid, and the second movie was not that great, and then it just kind of fizzled out in the end.
Right.
Um,
Do you remember the rumor right before Star Wars Celebration 2019 where Ryan Johnson was, working on his stuff, and then we, were thinking about the potential of him coming out on the actual stage, and then him like actually talking about it, and then it didn't happen. I'm curious if this will happen. B- uh because as much as I would love for them to, announce the trilogy, I think we're going to be on that line of news that we kind of got in for Star Wars Celebration 2016. There was not that much news that happened during that celebration, and I just feel like for this celebration, I think we're just going to get trailers for things that we already know and that are confirmed for happening. Did you already talk about the rumor about Acolyte yet, or no?
no, I think that's kind of just one of those
Oh, okay.
rumors
Yeah.
that are out there that I
Okay.
mean, it's kind of unsubstantiated, and there's no real source. It's just kind of floating out there.
Good. Yeah, because
So
I think that's false.
yeah,
That's
Liam
yeah.
McCallion is asking, "Am I right in saying that the director stayed on for the movie?" Yes, it appears so. So that director for that film is Charmin Obaid-Chinoy. So continuing with the article here, also David Gordon Green, the last Halloween trilogy, may have tried to get a Star Wars film made at some point. It's unclear if this was abandoned in the pitching phase or if there were any real discussions about it. The pitching phase is the phase where most projects appear to be getting turned down. I've heard stories about once creators got wind of an Obi-Wan project happening, something upwards of 200 pitches were made to Lucasfilm. And one made it through, but then, of course, we all know it morphed into a TV show. And it's just kind of one of those weird things. It's like there's so many people that want to make Star Wars, but it's so hard to get through the Lucasfilm blockade, you know? However you may feel about that, though, there are some really upsetting bits coming up. According to Snyder, Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson were blindsided by Kathleen Kennedy's hiring of Charmin Obaid-Chinoy as the director of their film. This is especially concerning because, from all accounts, it was Lindelof who brought the idea to Lucasfilm, who was likely going to be producer or executive producer on the project, essentially acting as the primary overseer. Co-writers and director may have had clashes, according to both Jeff and co-host John Roca's sources, which eventually led to the scribe's departure from the project. And here pictured Damon Lindelof, Stephen Knight, and Justin Britt. Apparently, Lucasfilm was ready for that move, as they had Stephen Knight ready to pick up the project once the two turned in the draft, which, according to Snyder, wasn't in a very good place. It looks like that will eventually not matter, as Knight will be putting his footprint on it. If we're to guess, Lindelof and Britt Gibson will end up with a story by credit on the film, a la Rise of Skywalker with Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly. But why the rush? Snyder hears that Kathleen Kennedy is especially keen on putting out a film by 2025 because Disney has told her that her job depends on whether she meets that deadline. Of course, this might directly contradict what some of us have been thinking for a while, that she will be leaving the company this summer after Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny premieres in theaters, but that's been speculative for the most part. And speaking of Indiana Jones, Snyder's last bit regarding Lucasfilm is that the parent company is ready to move on from it. At least for now, Disney may have told Lucasfilm that they're no longer making any projects that aren't set in a galaxy far, far away. This may give some hindsight to Willow's cancellation earlier this month, and puts to rest the Indiana Jones series on Disney Plus that the company was reportedly developing.
Okay.
And we will be getting some news at Star Wars Celebration on April 7th through the 10th, but there will be obviously little to no mention of any of the behind-the-scenes drama. The Stephen Knight, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy project, which seems to be the one on deck to be released December 2025.
Could you imagine
official
that?
confirmation from Lucasfilm, as well as the title brief synopsis at the very least.
Could you imagine them like actually saying like, okay, so this project got delayed because of this guy, or like of just kind of talking about like the drama just on stage and it's just awkward for the audience.
Yeah, that'll never happen,
Yeah, yeah,
obviously. But I mean, it's just a wild thing, man.
it is.
It seems like our co-host on the after show for the Mandalorian said there's a lot of instability right now with Lucasfilm, and I want them to announce films more than anyone, but it seems like Damon Lindelof went in there with his idea. He wanted to have more control over what he pitched and what basically got greenlit. And then a director was selected for his project that he didn't pick. So he just kind of bowed out and said, "Yeah, it's not going to be great," like his statement that he gave at South by Southwest. So, yeah, Liam, I think agrees with me. First two Halloween movies were good, but the last one was odd to say the least. Yeah, it was very odd. It was almost like that last Halloween film was like they rushed their homework and just kind of turned anything in, almost in a way. It it didn't. It was pretty much the rise of Skywalker for horror films. It felt like because it
Yeah,
was the end of like a big franchise, and there wasn't this huge climactic thing that happened. It like kind of
right.
popped and fizzled. Um, but yeah. So what do you think of the news? What these three? Now we get three movies announced. That's the rumor. It's not 100% official, but
Right.
that would be interesting if they came out. If they came out with all their info and they drop storyboards, and of course they not give away the entire thing, but I mean just kind of tell us what the synopsis is and what they're thinking, and if they can get us in the right mindset, the right headspace. I mean,
I
how do you think you're going to react to to Kathleen Kennedy on stage telling us about these three films?
well, if it ends up being anything with the Old Republic, you know people are going to freak out. Um because that whole era is something that a lot of people have wanted. People wanted live action Bane, Darth Malice, Nihilus, all of those, characters. And I know that with Acolyte we'll probably get something on, I mean, with some of the Sith, but it's the High Republic. It's not the Old Republic era. And I know everyone's been wanting the Old Republic. So if they did anything with the Old Republic, it would be amazing. I've said if Ryan Johnson did an Old Republic era like trilogy, people would freak out because Ryan Johnson's a great director. I just think everything that's happened with Last Jedi, he was dealing with main characters that we loved and adored and that were already established. But if he made his own series that had nothing to do with Skywalkers, I think it would be phenomenal. It would probably be one of the best, trilogies out there for this generation. That's
Yeah.
how good I think it would be. But they're not, I'm not sure what they're doing over there for his trilogy. I don't know what era it's going to be, but I'm telling you right now, if they give Ryan Johnson a Old Republic trilogy, people are going to freak out. For the if three movies end up being Solo, that would be interesting. I know everything that they talked about. I know everything that they talked about for the failure of Solo. And I think the reason why was because of the backlash that The Last Jedi got. It was not because it was about a single character. It was about of what The Last Jedi was. And that's something I don't think they could just really accept. At least that's what's coming from my point of view. Because I remember walking on The Last Jedi and I was like, that didn't feel like Star Wars entirely. And I just found it very interesting. I think there are aspects of The Last Jedi that are great, but I think for the most part, the audience does have that feeling of the sequels could have been treated differently. And they definitely could have been, they definitely could have had more of a story arc for certain characters. But hey, you know what? We have no idea what the future holds. I am excited to see what lies ahead. And
Yeah.
Celebration is less than 2 weeks away. So,
Yeah, I don't think at this point in time we're putting too much stock into showrunners and writers and directors announced, because there's so many that have been either let go or fired or leave projects, that I think that the fan base is almost kind of the fan base that does keep up with the news. They're kind of numb to it, kind of like what Late to the Party says. They say, honestly, we could care less about announcements anymore from Lucasfilm. We'll get hyped once we get an actual trailer for whatever projects they have planned. Yeah, I was super hyped when Benioff and Weiss came over from Game of Thrones, and then the story came out that they were going to do a project on the origins of the Jedi Order and the First Jedi and concentrate on that. And they signed a huge deal with Netflix and just left, and it was very like unceremonious, and there's been zero talk of anyone picking up that project, and it's weird. I don't think there's another franchise that's like this. Although you can argue there's no other franchise really like Star Wars, other than something like maybe the MCU or
right.
Harry Potter or whatever they're doing in Middle Earth. But it's we're at a different stage right now in Star Wars, and we keep. I think it's kind of odd to me that we're in this place right now because it's Star Wars. I mean, waiting 6 I keep on saying this, but waiting 6 years in between films, it's, to me, it's just kind of unacceptable.
Yeah.
So Deepart says, "Well, what I miss?" So apparently the rumor. So Deepart, the rumor is we're going to get 3 film announcements at Celebration. There's going to be the Taika film, the no longer helmed Damon Lindelof project, still directed by same director that was chosen apparently by Kathleen Kennedy, and we're going to get the Sean Levy film that was talked about apparently. So 3 film announcements. The Sean Levy film, we have no idea what it's going to be about. Seems like nothing is leaked about that. The Taika film, the only real detail we have about that film is the fact that it's going to be something totally created from scratch, and then Taika possibly might act in it. And then, yeah, the Damon Lindelof project that he brought to Lucasfilm apparently, but he didn't get to pick the director, and so that makes up the 3 possible film announcements. But you kind of have no idea what they're going to talk about, which it's weird because it's like simultaneously frustrating and exciting because if Colin and I do make it into that room in London at the Excel Center for the Lucasfilm panel, which is where we figure they're going to make these announcements, it's going to be like, if it's hard to say, because if it's something that we've been craving and wanting and thinking it's like a no-brainer to do in Star Wars, I mean, we can rattle off probably 10 off the top of our head.
I just want a Max Rebo series. That's all I want. just have him going. I mean, just have him going through a depression after the bombing in Book of Boba, and have him just roaming the streets, and then all of a sudden he ends up getting gigs again like that. That's all I want, David. That's all I want.
So Deepart brought up another High Republic, or actually he's the first High Republic comment. I wouldn't mind a High Republic series or a set of films. I think what you could do is start off with that first book, and I forgot what it was. Do you remember what it was called? It was like The Great Disaster or something that involves hyperspace.
Yep, yeah, I do know what you're referring to.
Yeah, it's been a while since we visited that book, but I mean, starting off from that point, I mean, you could still bring in Yoda. You could have Maz Kanata in it. There's a lot of ways they can go, and it seems like they're choosing the most difficult path to print money, essentially. That's what it really comes down to. When a Star Wars film is in theaters, it's going to make money. unless it seems like there's a lot of controversy surrounding and swirling Star Wars, because agree with it, not agree with it, it seems like people did kind of almost protest Star Wars by not going to see the Solo film and
Yep.
kind of being lukewarm on the Solo film. I've met people in real life. I thought it was like a myth. I thought there was no way that people were like, I'm not going to see the film because I didn't agree with the film they put
Yeah.
out prior. So Miss Sunflower says, who is Stephen Knight? So Stephen Knight is a writer, I believe, from the UK. He's worked on Peaky Blinders, along with other projects. And according to the article that I just read from Star Wars Newsnet, he essentially was kind of waiting in the wings. It's almost like Lucasfilm will hire writers, but then have backups kind of waiting in the wings. I don't know if that's a standard Hollywood practice or what, but that's the way the article made it seem.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So Evan says, how much info do you think we might get at Celebration? I think we're going to get a lot in regards to the future of film. I think there is a plan in place, but of course, with the removal of Damon Lindelof, it's kind of tricky. And it's odd because the news that we got about Damon Lindelof in that writer's room after 2022 Celebration was the fact that Dave Filoni was in there as well. And it's kind of late in the game to have all that planning, all that pre-production, and then Damon Lindelof just leaves. So it's another odd situation. And I would argue that the Solo situation was even odder with Lord and Miller almost completely directing an entire film.
Yeah, that was really weird.
And then and then with 2 weeks to go left in production, apparently Kathleen Kennedy saw the dailies and said this isn't going to work and brought in Ron Howard, which is another weird situation. But that's what happened. Yeah, D-Part says Light of the Jedi. That was the first book. We actually covered it on Patreon.
We did.
We read the entire thing.
If you love Star Wars and you love us, go and check out our Patreon. We got some really cool content on there. We have more on the way.
Yeah, I should say we covered the entire thing, not read the entire thing. We covered it all on Patreon. Miss Sunflower says, will any of these rumored movie announcements be episode 19? I always kind of wondered about that, if they're going to do what Lucas did with like the jump, like how we started with episode 4.
Yeah.
Maybe someone comes in and starts with like, I don't know, episode 12, and then there's like a three trilogy, or actually a 3-film trilogy that's just kind of a blank space. That would be kind of neat. But then again, I think Hollywood and just the overall kind of interworkings of how these franchises think about storytelling is different. And George Lucas was really like the maverick that thought outside of the box and did what he did. And it was something totally unique. And of course he ran into trouble for it. He didn't have credits in the front of the movie, so he got kicked out of the Directors Guild. And the writer, I think he left the Writers Guild. But yeah, that would be kind of a neat thing. It would leave an opening for another creator. But I think at this point in time, after the sequel trilogy, we want a cohesive plan by an individual mind or a group of individuals that come up with an entire arc of films.
I agree.
Yeah, surprisingly, in episode 10 hasn't really been kind of mentioned at all. It would be episode X, the Roman numeral X, which would be kind of interesting. But no one's brought up the fact that it could be an episodic film. And during the Rise of Skywalker campaign, the talk about ending the Skywalker trilogy was there. And then, of course, Lucasfilm pulled out the crawl from every other film outside of the Skywalker saga, which I'm not a fan of, because if you play any video game before Disney bought Lucasfilm, you always see the crawl. I mean, to me, that's what signifies what you're going to watch a Star Wars film, essentially. I wish they would have left it in Rogue One. It would have been great in Rogue One.
I agree.
Any plans to do more books? So I have heard some talk about kind of the book division kind of slowing down a little bit. I know we had a huge influx of books with the High Republic and other books, especially that one book that came out that involves the sequel trilogy. I think it was Lando on the cover, Lando along with Luke and maybe Han. I'm forgetting the name of the book, but it really did.
From the Thrawn trilogy?
No. The standalone book that was released.
Oh.
I don't know if anyone in chat knows the name of it.
That is a great novel.
Dark Disciple.
Yes, that's a good one. And then I would definitely read Darth Plagueis, because that takes place during the events of the Phantom Menace, and also shows you like the fall of Darth Plagueis and the rise of Palpatine. Highly recommended. Go and check that one out if you haven't yet. But that's
unfortunately though not canon. So
yes, it is not canon.
Bad thing.
But it's a good read. It definitely is a good read. And when we get Acolyte, there's a chance that we might get Darth Plagueis in there, and that could definitely, make at least some of that story canon, because that novel is so dark, and it shows you, why Palpatine does what he does and what his thought process is. Again, it's not canon, but it's definitely a good read. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I have it on Audible, but I'm just like Liam here. I've only read Light of the Jedi, and that's it from the High Republic.
Yeah,
I actually do have the second novel on Audible, but I haven't got into it.
There's also Jedi Battle Scars, and this is something that Mike from All Star Wars and Star Wars Exchange, him and I just talked about it because we did our Jedi Survivor breakdown. That novel is like the 5-year gap from Jedi Fallen Order to Jedi Survivor. So if you're looking for a good read, and then you're also looking for a novel to kind of fill in that gap, like a story to fill in that gap of the 5 years from those two games, go and read that.
So yeah, Liam asked if we're going to be covering more books in the future than we've already done. Yes, our plan is to do that. Brooke wants to cover all the Ahsoka content. She's read the book. She's a huge Ahsoka fan, so she will be doing that as soon as she has a chance. I'm probably going to want to be on there with her, because I'm a big Ahsoka fan too. I haven't read it. I've been kind of like waiting. So yeah, we do plan to cover more stuff. And we did have, I believe his name was Chris, right?
Who?
Your buddy from Galaxy's Edge that was doing that was
Mason?
Covering... Yeah, Mason. Yeah, he actually.
How did you forget Mason?
Well, he hasn't been on the podcast in a long time, and I think his life situation changed. And
yeah, it did.
He didn't have any time to continue covering books for us, which is what our plan was. So, yeah, we definitely do plan on covering books, especially when there's going to be a lull in live action and animation. So, yeah, D-Part says, Liam, definitely read them. The High Republic books are phenomenal, especially The Fallen Star. Yeah, I think we want to cover them as well. And with the Acolyte coming up, it's going to be connected to the High Republic, so it's going to be worth it. Kind of what I'm saying to everyone right now. If you haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels, go watch it. If you're kind of maybe forgetting some of the stuff that are in those shows, it's definitely worth a rewatch, because I think with Ahsoka, it's going to be heavy Filoni-verse, and all the Filoni-verse stuff is in the Clone Wars and Rebels. So
exactly. And there is the other show that Dave Filoni is currently working on, and that's supposed to take place like in the Mando timeline.
Yeah.
I did have a theory on the on our breakdown for chapter 20 of The Mandalorian, which was where we would have Kelleran Beck and Grogu end up surviving Order 66, and then you have the beginning episode just kind of show different survivors of Order 66, and then you go from there, and then that would lead into Grogu surviving, and he's up with Mando and everything, and then that way we could kind of fill in that gap of what Grogu was during the original trilogy and everything, which I think would be great. I honestly think that would be a great story, but who knows?
I definitely agree. That would be another great film.
Mhm.
So, our awesome patron here, Evan, asks, I'm not really much of a book guy. Are most of these books canon? So, every book that's been released since April of 2014 is canon. But there's a caveat in there that if something happens or is talked about in live action that conflicts or contradicts with any of the books or comics, the live action takes precedence over what is in the written material. So keep that in mind.
Right, because there is a lot of things that have been retconned, and it's not just live action, it's also some of the cartoons, because if you look at the first episode of The Bad Batch, we see a different point of view on how Caleb Doom, aka Kanan, from Star Wars Rebels, survived Order 66, and in the comic, his story is a lot different. And in the novel, it's a lot different than what we got in the show. But The Bad Batch, the actual show, is canon now more than that book. So that story that you see him from the comic and everything is no longer technically canon because it was a whole different chain of events that happened. And then there's also the thing from the Book of Boba Fett where like they burn Yoda's lightsaber, but then somehow Luke found his lightsaber, and then but that
one was actually okay. That
right,
conflict,
because Yoda ended up making a second one when he was on Dagobah.
See, everyone thought that was a conflicting story point, but no one, or not a lot of people, read that specific line of comics where that information was given to us. So I thought, they kind of messed up too. I was like, wait a minute. But Yoda apparently built an exact duplicate of the lightsaber that he had and that we saw him use in Attack of the Clones. So Liam says, I definitely will read the newest Thrawn books just before Christmas and loved it and how it tied in with Rebels. Yeah, that's terrific. The connective tissue for Star Wars, when it's there, it's awesome. It's such a payoff, I think. And that's why I think some of the stuff that we see in The Mandalorian, like R5-D4, and the fact that we saw Kelleran Beck in the last episode of The Mandalorian, that was a huge payoff for
it's so good.
The fans that know who he is and know that he portrayed Jar Jar, and then knew about the Jedi Challenge TV show or YouTube show.
I also think it's great that if you go on Instagram, you see that the official Star Wars page and the Mandalorian page did a collab with Ahmed Best, and they're actually like sharing it and advertising it a lot. And they normally don't do that with characters and actors. So that made me really happy. And I think this means a lot to not just to Ahmed Best, but to the fans, because he went through a lot and he shouldn't have gone through what he did. And I'm glad that that he's getting the high praise that he deserves, because, it's something when a character is not your thing, but to go after the actor, the person that portrayed that character because you didn't like them and you send death threats, that's messed up. And I'm just glad that he pulled through, and now we have an incredible sequence with such an incredible person that has answered a question that we've had for a very long time. So it's so cool, and I love Ahmed Best. So I'm so happy for him. Again, congratulations to him.
Yeah, and like I always like to say, if I was running Lucasfilm, the one kind of request I would have would be just to keep Kelleran Beck going and continue his story,
I
and
think they will.
just have him live as long as Ahmed Best is living, and have him in different things. And
So
I think there might be a plan for his Jedi character.
I think there is, but something else is there was a rumor that they were going to go back to Naboo, and
Yeah,
during the season, and I think it would be great, if we went there and we find out that the ship that he used was Jar Jar Binks, and then maybe
Senator Binks.
right, because it's canon that he was a street performer. So how cool would it be to find old man Jar Jar Binks, talk to him and be like, hey, we've kind of figured out that the ship that Kelleran Beck used was yours. And then he'd be like, oh yeah. And then they would just just kind of like talk about it. And then they would go on a quest to find Kelleran Beck. So then he could reunite with Grogu. And then that character would be in the big Avengers team up thing. Like going forward. And then that would be awesome, a way to bring him in. So
that's another great film idea, Colin. The team up, the surviving Order 66 team up of Jedi.
I'm just saying, man.
Against maybe like Vader and the Empire, against Prime Vader in a Vader series. Come on, man. There's so much meat on the bone.
There's so much opportunity that they could do. I think one other character that I would love to see from Legends is General Ram Koda from The Force Unleashed. I know that there's no way that they would be. I mean, I guess they could make Starkiller canon. He wouldn't be able to be as powerful as he was in the game, but General Ram Koda was a great character. I loved his character, and I know they kind of added some elements of General Ram Koda to Kanan in Star Wars Rebels when he went blind and everything. But if they did that and they brought some characters from Legends to, I especially him, because again, I loved his character in the game. I think that would be remarkable. And there's a whole outlet of different characters you could definitely bring in. And that Avengers team up thing that we're talking about most likely is going to happen. Dave Filoni pretty much confirmed that's going to happen. So, General Ram Koda, Kelleran Beck, Max Rebo, you name them, have them out there.
And see, I wouldn't see even the issue of bringing in like a Force Unleashed series of films or a TV show and just have it outside of canon. DC's already going to do that with like their Elseworld stuff. They're going to have like 3 Batman.
But that's different. And the reason why that's different is because they have the multiverse thing where they can travel to different universes. In Star Wars, you've got world between worlds, and most likely we'll explore that in Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. And did we already address the rumor thing for Ahsoka? For the possible time jump right in the middle of the season?
No, we haven't. Galactic Transmissions reported on that.
Yeah. So, all right. So there's going to be 8 episodes of Ahsoka. The first 4 episodes will allegedly be the epilogue from Star Wars Rebels, and then the last 4 episodes of the season will catch up to where we are in the Mandalorian timeline.
Right.
I think that's great. I think that that's going to make so many fans of Star Wars Rebels happy. And then that's also cool because that's also happening. The epilogue of Rebels is happening directly after the Battle of Endor. So that also opens up a huge opportunity for us to possibly see some of the original trilogy characters because they're very active. They're very active during that time period because they're trying to restore the Republic and
Right.
make it into the New Republic. So I think that would be great. I honestly think it would.
Yeah. There's so many stories that they can do. It's so odd to me that it's a 6-year wait, and then it's going to be 3 brand new different films theoretically that we're going to get. So I don't know. Yeah, Evan wants to make a petition for David and Colin to run Lucasfilm, just the Star Wars Stuff podcast in general.
I don't want that power.
I would
I
like
don't want
it.
that power.
I'd like my try at it.
I would just like a cameo. Like, I don't care. I would be a stormtrooper. I would just, kind of just walk in the background and get shot or something, or just walk on through on the streets of Coruscant, or just, I'm working on a droid, just something. Honestly, I don't need to be in charge of anything. I don't want that power, but having, some type of cameo in some way.
Max Rebo executive decisions to be made.
Okay, that, yes, 100%. But even just having a small cameo, like, hands down, I would be able to, die happy.
Yeah. Liam wants some free stuff. We're going to have some stuff for you, Liam, when we see you in London. So we'll be getting some stuff.
Yep. If you see us in London, we may or may not have some swag for you. So come up.
Yeah, I think we'll see, Liam. We're going to kind of coordinate and
there are a lot of people that it sounds like we are definitely going to see, and we're excited to meet all of you. It's been a long time coming, and this is also David and I's first time going to London. So it's and the fact that it is a Star Wars celebration is fantastic. So we're super pumped. We're super excited.
About 2 weeks away from touching down in London.
Crazy.
That is wild.
Can't believe it's coming up. I still can't wrap my head around that we're going.
Because it still really hasn't hit me yet either.
Yeah, because David and I we were talking, and we actually weren't even thinking of going at first, and then all of a sudden, oh, Liam, come on! I actually did that today. I got everything fixed. I didn't need the roasting though, but yeah, no, we were talking about like not even going, and then we just saw other people had big Star Wars plans this year, and then we just decided, you know what? I think it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't go. So we got our tickets, and then they said Star Wars Celebration isn't happening until 2025, and we were just like, okay, well, we made the right decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then
I think
here we are.
Make the right decision. So
and we have a lot planned too. Like it's not just like we're going in. Like we are doing stuff. We also are going to meet some of incredible people that are in the Star Wars community, and some of the people that shape Star Wars. I mean, Ewan, Hayden, Andy Serkis. I mean, come on, it's incredible. This is going to be a wonderful opportunity, and it's just going to be a wonderful Star Wars experience.
For sure.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk about that rumor about the 3 films and the Lightspeed Lane kind of.
Yeah, geez, man.
Yeah, that situation. I talked about it at the very beginning when a lot of people weren't watching, but I guess I'll talk about it again here. So yeah, the Lightspeed reservation process went active at around 11 o'clock today Central. And luckily, I was able to take a break. I called Colin.
Yeah.
We used our confirmation ID for our tickets. And I was refreshing the page on my laptop for the Lightspeed Lane reservation, simultaneously refreshing on my cell phone. The Twitter notification came up on my cell phone. I clicked on the link there. I got into the waiting room there faster on my phone as opposed to my laptop. And it told you how long you had until you were able to select your time slot for that day, for whatever day you wanted to go. Of course, for Celebration and the Celebration store, you want to go as soon as you possibly can because they have run out of stuff in the past. And in 2022, last year, I didn't get to go to the Celebration store at all. It was like on the 3rd floor or something. I think James went several times.
Yeah.
He bought a lot of stuff, but luckily the stuff that was like left over, I was able to buy after the fact, so I got more stuff, which is a cool thing they do. But
We
the whole
also still don't
process,
know. Yeah, because we still don't know what's going to be at the store yet, right? Like they
yeah,
haven't
we have no
announced
idea
that.
what's going to be at the store. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to have the standard
Yeah, like
like
shirts and
runs of
merch.
shirts
Yeah.
and cups and stuff like that. But
I
the very specific items, I think that's what everyone's kind of waiting for.
They'll probably announce that here within the next couple of days. I would be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you started packing yet, or are you waiting till the last minute?
So I actually bought some new suitcases. I bought some hard shell suitcases because if I buy like an action figure or something, so there's going to be a Funko reservation
Yep.
thing happening. Is it on the 29th?
Yes.
Okay, that's my daughter's birthday, so I might not be able to register on time. But or actually, no, that's not my daughter's birthday. That's my anniversary. My daughter's birthday is on the 26th. So, yeah.
Okay.
I get those dates confused because they're important dates.
Right.
I really have to think hard about them.
If it's your daughter's birthday, you can't do it. But if it's on your anniversary, it's a go. Right? Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I asked my wife what she wanted, and she's like, "Don't get me anything." And of course, that's the cue for I need to go get something. So.
Right. And then you can be like, "Hey, here's a Funko Pop from Star Wars Celebration."
Dude, I got a story for you. I'll tell you off air, but it wasn't a Funko Pop, but it was something maybe equivalent in her eyes. But
that's funny.
Yeah, it was way back when we were younger and didn't have a lot of money. But yeah, I bought the suitcases. I still need to buy the power outlets because the voltage is different in the UK. And the sockets are different.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me that. You actually still have to send me the link for that because I
I'll send you that link. And of course, they use pounds over there. They don't use euros, which we established and determined. And my buddy Carl, who was on the after show the other night, he reserved a Tesla Model 3 for us, so we won't have to spend any gas while we're spend money. Any pounds on gas, or I guess on petrol, is what they call it in England. So, yeah, we're set up and we have our hotels and everything's good to go. We got our flights, and now it's just like a waiting game. We all got our passports, which that was my biggest concern was the passport thing. Because
I was not concerned at all. I know everyone was. I know my wife was, and she's not even going. And I'm like, I'm not worried about it. And she's like, well, you should be.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah.
You want to see the inside of it?
Nope. Do not do that. Do not do that on the air. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're all set. It's just like minor things like the power. That's the only real concern. I'm taking my laptop. We plan to podcast every single night. I plan to take as much 4K video on my phone as I can possibly do. I'm clearing out all the storage. I'm clearing out everything that's not a necessity. I'm taking a gimbal, a Steadicam for my phone to record stuff.
There you go.
And if we do, hopefully we make it into the panels, because right afterwards, we're probably going to podcast and talk to you guys and tell you what the experience was.
Yeah.
And what we noticed that maybe you didn't notice on watching it on the stream. Hopefully you guys get the stream wherever you're at.
So. I'm so excited, man. Oh man, I know that people are gonna be like, yeah, just go on the plane and sleep. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. I am gonna watch the 4-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith, and then I'm just gonna be re-watching just a bunch of different Star Wars projects. And there you go.
Yeah, so luckily Carl grew up in Germany and he's been to England many, many times and has driven over there. So hopefully he doesn't have an issue with driving on the wrong side of the road, on the left-hand side. And I'm not even sure if I even want to attempt that, because that's kind of terrifying.
That would throw me off.
So. I'm a great driver, but I mean, yeah, it'll be really weird. So yeah, Liam brings up tea. I know tea is really big in England. Um, I've never drinking English tea before, so I have no idea if it's similar to like American coffee. I can't stand coffee. It's to me, it's nasty, and coffee's a big deal in America, and I don't drink it. I drink everything aside from that. So, but yeah, we're hyped. We're excited. We're gonna try and do as much and cover as much stuff as possible. We'll probably be sticking stuff on Patreon every night, YouTube every night. Um, Depending on Wi-Fi access, of course. If we can't get any good access, it's going to be hard. Chicago was a different story because we had really good access to Wi-Fi where we were staying.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about the Wi-Fi at the hotels there. And Josh also assured me that we shouldn't have to worry about it. So, but yeah, just get ready for all of that content because there's going to be a lot of news coming your guys' way, and not that many news outlets are going. So if you want some information, go and check out us because we're going to be on top of it.
Yeah. And we have to pick up our badges. We're not having our badges mailed out to us, so we're going to be there at will call, looking to get them.
What do you mean there's no AC in England? Wait, what?
At my hotel, there's going to be.
Yeah. I was going to be like, there's got to be AC, or I'm just going to have to take some. I'm going to have to do a stop by Michigan, pick up some snow, and then just start heading over there because I need the cold, man. I need the cold. It's ironic because I live in Florida, but I need the cold.
I do remember the world news talking about that big heat wave in England, and a lot of people didn't have AC. Kind of like in Michigan, like 10 years ago, when like hardly anyone had like AC, and it was like people like dying of heat stroke. I'm used to the heat. I'm from Texas. I've dealt with sweltering heat. We've done the Disney World thing during May the 4th, and that was an experience. Yeah, Liam says you won't need any AC because at that time we did a little bit of research. The temperature is not too bad. It's in like the it'll get down to the low 50s like early morning and get up to maybe like the high 70s during that time frame. Okay, yeah, Liam says it's cold here all the time. Get some jumpers. Thanks, Liam, for the tip, man. Yeah, I might actually buy some new Star Wars hoodies. That could be a thing for me, or maybe get a Star Wars Stuff podcast hoodie made. Evan says it's warm compared to Norway. Yeah,
I've never been to Norway, so I don't know what to tell you.
Well, it's where that's Hoth. That's where they shot The Empire Strikes Back, right? Norway. There's a Norwegian hotel.
Yeah.
That story where there was like a massive, like once in a century blizzard or something, and they just simply blasted the door open and just put the camera inside the hotel and then shot.
I remember that.
Yep, Mob Rules Texas is like living in an oven. So Mob Rules, you're local to me, aren't you? We've never talked about this, but I think you are close to me. Do we know each other? Are you keeping that a secret? Liam says, hope you like the rain. I love the rain, man. I love it. I don't like the accidents and all that stuff that comes with it, but rain makes me happy. It does the opposite of what the typical human being experiences with like rain and like cloudiness. I love it. That's why I think I could survive in Seattle, maybe thrive.
Lutefisk? Oh, lutefisk. Can you elaborate on that?
Mob Rules says South Texas, San Antonio area.
That's funny.
What city, Mob Rules? I think he's in the same city as I am.
That's funny.
But yeah, Texas is super hot. I think Colin and I are just like daydreaming about London now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much all we had to talk about. The potential announcement for the rumored 3 movies. I think my connection is getting bad here, so this might be the proper time to end the podcast. But yeah, thanks for everyone joining. If you haven't subscribed to our channel on YouTube, do that. Hit like on the video. We greatly appreciate that. That helps out the channel and the podcast immensely. If you guys can still hear me, which
Yes.
okay. Yeah, my screen is frozen. I don't know. It's like prime time right now for people getting off of work and school, getting online. So
Yep. We can hear you. You're fine.
all right. Yeah, I have no controls right now. Nothing's working. So
All right, I gotcha. From David and myself, thank you so much for tuning in every week. We're on Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're on Twitter at Stuff Pod. We're also on Patreon. Please go and check this out. And thank you for everyone that is part of our Patreon. We love you all so dearly. We're also on TikTok at Star Wars Stuff Podcast, starwarstuff@gmail.com. Please message us there. We also on Facebook, Star Wars Stuff Group, and Star Wars Stuff Podcast page. We're on Apple Podcasts. If you love David, go and give us a review. And we are also on Twitch, Star Wars Stuff Gaming. Some of us will be gaming tonight, so tune in for that. Again, we love you guys. We would not be doing this if it wasn't for you. Thank you so much from myself and David. May the Force be with you always.